All right, folks, welcome back to another exciting edition of Two Men in Black and White. And, folks, we are officially in the business of immigration and deportation, mostly deportation. I'm not sure if you're following the private prison stocks, but now is the time to buy. I'm sure Trump's friends already knew that and have grabbed a whole bunch of shares of the private prison stocks because they are shooting through the roof because they need a place to house all the people that they would like to deport or just go ahead and warehouse human beings because it's cruelty for cruelty's sake. All right, my partner in crime, Brock Ganeles, here with us now from the beautiful confines of the Hudson Valley, just north of New York City, right off the Hudson, in his beautiful abode. Not a thing to worry about for you, Brock. White America's looking pretty good right now. I'm a little nervous, even in the safe, secure, allegedly confines of my home. But man, there's a ton of people out there who just don't know when it's coming. And MAGA is just disgustingly awful when it comes to this deportation nonsense. What say you?
Well, Eric Prince has been dying to have a private armed forces that run around America, right? Like he did have him running around the Middle East and Africa. This big bill is going to create a ICE military force that's bigger than the FBI, which means that those private prisons are going to get filled. And that's what's going to fill the coffers of the investors in those companies, right? So it all goes hand in hand. And with a handshake to DOJ, who's now decided they're emphasizing denaturalization. Not a word that I heard ever in my life before. This is the first I've heard of the denaturalization, which appears to be the stripping of one's citizenship so that they can be deported.
Well, and it's very similar to the move that they're making in the court cases where people are showing up for their appointments, doing what they're supposed to do. They throw out the case and basically remove their protected status, and ICE grabs them. I mean, it really is a checkers type of move. It's like, a double jump, but it's not real sophisticated. And it's just, and it's this, and they're not going after, when are you going to go after the MS-13 and the real gang members? When is that going to happen? That's what I want to see. Stop grabbing hairdressers, welders, and, children and homemakers. Start grabbing some people that are really causing problems out here.
There's actually a side story of how some MS-13 gang members are getting exonerated because that was a part of the deal with El Salvador relative to some gang members. So story that hasn't bubbled up and been talked about too much, but you never know what's exactly real, so you gotta triple check every story. But that's floating around out there, to make matters worse. But not even if that wasn't the case, not that what's going on isn't in essence tragic enough. I mean, this is such the loss of America as we knew it that it's just moved beyond anything. But can you imagine having 4 or 5 times as many ICE troops out there on the streets, rounding more and more people up? So now it's Haitians are the latest target group. You probably saw the Cuban immigrant who's been here for 60 years. The guy who's been here for 60 years who died in an ICE facility, right? So now people are starting to drop dead in ICE facilities, right? A Canadian 2 days ago, this Cuban American, he was here for 60 years. Dies in a detention center, probably sleeping on the floor, probably died of dehydration because he didn't have any water, right? So that's the death he's having. So, I mean, I don't know how Latino America is not just absolutely up in arms. Granted, we all should be, but the fact that they were the first targets, but now it's moving to black people, right? Maybe they'll start with the Haitians, but I can guarantee you it's not going to stop there.
Nope.
It's definitely not going to stop there.
Nope.
And yes, I'm safe as hell in my humble abode as a white American, but I'm also a Jewish white American. And for all this craziness that Jews have about this New York City mayoral candidate, I wish the focus would go back to the national level. Trump is the ultimate threat. The mayor of New York can't do that fucking much.
Right.
Trump's the president. He's got his hands on every lever, right? All financial and military. And Jews are as safe as they are for as long as Netanyahu's on the right side of Trump? Well, what happens since Netanyahu already bombed Lebanon and broke the truce that Trump, Right? That ceasefire that Trump bragged about, Netanyahu already broke. So,
Pretty
but
violent.
what happens if Israel ever Netanyahu / Israel make a move that Trump's not happy with?
Right.
Then American Jews fall out of favor, right? Like
Right.
we're always easy targets. So like no one's more than one or two derivatives away from being a target group.
Exactly. Exactly. And speaking of, the people taking aim, ICE is appropriated $30 billion to remain available until September of 2029. They're going to hire 8,500 new officers and expand deportation operations. I mean, why can't we put that kind of money into education? Why can't we put that money into our schools? Why can't we put that money into scholarships for families that can't afford college? Right? Why aren't there grants being issued for people to go and get educated? We're falling behind the rest of the world. This is not helping us. We can't, because of these deportation strategies, we can't even get top of the line medical help into the country on work visas, right? Every aspect of life in America is suffering because of this idiot and his deportation ideas, right? We're losing across the board. Every quality of life metric in many of the red states is going right into the crapper. What's the latest estimate from this big beautiful bill? 300 rural hospitals. There was a candidate for governor of New Mexico last week talking about, I don't know how people are going to get health care here. I mean, most of New Mexico is rural. What do you got? Las Cruces and what? Santa Fe? Like, what are the major city centers in New Mexico?
Yeah, really, Albuquerque and Santa Fe, the only two I know. Having driven down there, I don't think there are any other
Yeah.
big dots on that map, right? It's all rural. It's all rural after that. But right, it's interesting, right? Tom Tillis, senator from North Carolina, just decides that he's not going to
Run again for
now,
reelection.
he's 26, right? He's got 18 more months. And he kind of just blew up the whole charade, right? He's like, I can't look at like 600,000 people in my state and tell them I'm taking their health care away, basically giving them a death sentence, right? He
Right.
couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. Voter suppression guy, racist guy who fucking did a lot of bullshit along the way. He
Yep.
finally got to the point where he couldn't do it, probably because he couldn't look at his white constituents and in good faith do it, right? Finally got to him. Guess
Right.
what? He's one out of what? The 54
One out of
Republican senators that got to that point?
right.
Lisa Murkowski, all you had to do is throw a few dollars her way, although that got pulled away, we're going to see. But not, Mark, it's not just the hospitals right now. There's all kinds of data coming out on the nursing homes
Right.
that we're going to have to shut
Right.
down. Just, so yeah, rural hospitals, boom, nursing homes swept right along with them. So, like,
Right.
it's going to hit so many families, so many.
Yeah, especially the black and brown families. Urban centers, we've already been feeling it here. Brock, and the thing about it was, Governor Kemp had this huge surplus and was bragging about the fiscal responsibility to the state of Georgia, but yet we saw these hospitals in urban areas closing. What are you doing with all the surplus? You just holding on to it for a rainy day? Because it definitely is not being used to save black and brown lives. I mean, it is insane. The blatant racism, right? And the blatant hate that's being directed at these black and brown communities just because, we want more power. And we feel like we got to fix the numbers I mean, look, how long we've been gerrymandering, right? How long have we been deciding, which people will vote for us, right? Not the people voting for their, elected officials, right? The elected officials decide who gets to vote for them, which is ridiculous. We still haven't figured out these maps, right? You got one or two skirmishes here and there around the country, but the gerrymandering is ridiculous. So they said, hey, the gerrymandering is not working, right? We just got too many black and brown folks out there. We got to start either killing these folks, right, or housing them in facilities where they can't get to the ballot box. And that's what's happening now. Or let's make them count jelly beans again, like we did back in the 50s, and charge a poll tax, right? And so, now we're dumbing down on education, right? DeSantis has his board over at Florida A&M, one of the flagship African-American HBCUs that incidentally is right next to Florida State University, and it's like a shared campus. FSU students will take classes at FAM and vice versa. So, I mean, we're not doing ourselves any favor. We're not making America great. I don't know what MAGA thinks, what books they're reading, what's telling them this. But, and still, the mainstream media, nobody's calling out Donald Trump and saying, you know what, everything you just said was bullshit.
No one will say it that plainly, but the polls they're showing, even on CNN, have this bill like 20% underwater in any polling they do from any organization with like any even ounce of credibility in polling, right? I mean, polling tends to be bullshit, but like this one's a pretty straightforward. Do you approve or do you think it helps or doesn't help? Majority of people and the like. The sad reality, though, is that because of the power dynamic that's already in place, is that MAGA can push through a entirely dangerous, detrimental policy because of the pressure campaign from Trump, because no one will stand up for their constituents, and the only person who will tell the truth now is the guy who just said, okay, I'm not going to run for re-election. And once that decision's made, wow, does the truth pour out, right? But for the rest of them, they're going on TV saying Medicaid's not getting cut. Some of them are saying it, or, they're contradicting their message, but they don't care, right? They're just a pack of lies. Are saying, well, these are able-bodied people that deserve to get cut off the rolls. They're stealing money from the rest of you all, right? That's the secondary messaging that they're going with. But then the funny thing is Trump today puts out a tweet about, hey, be careful. Be careful message to Congress, because it's even getting to him. He's hearing how negative the Medicaid cuts are. Because his take is probably like, fuck it, don't cut Medicaid.
Right.
He's still going to take the tax cut, but like there's no benefit to him in cutting Medicaid, no definitive benefit. His racist Project 2025 guys behind him love it, but he would drop the Medicaid cuts in a heartbeat as long as the tax.
He doesn't care. Yeah.
He doesn't really care.
He probably doesn't know what it is.
He'll fuck with people a different way. He doesn't have to, he'll figure out another way to do it where people can't figure it out. But now that people have figured out these Medicaid cut part, he doesn't like the heat that they're taking. So he's starting to blame Congress already. So there is a chance that some of that changes. But Elizabeth Warren was out saying 20,000. She's throwing a statistic out there. It could be 20 million people that ultimately come off the healthcare rolls. Those numbers. But of course, because once you factor in the cost of healthcare, a lot of more people fall off.
Right. And what's going to happen is that, what's going to happen with indigent care, right? People are using the emergency room as, a last chance or as their primary care. The indigent rolls are going to obviously shoot through the roof, right? And then the cost is going to go up for those of us who happen to be able to afford some sort of medical care, right? So, it's not helping. I just don't understand why we as Americans are not saying, yo, what are we doing, people? What are we doing?
Well, it's white people that got to come through with that messaging, right? Black people have figured it out real quick, right? Because you can see that you got the target on your back, right? And it's not the first time, right? It's the millionth time, right? So like you see it coming a mile away, but white people, the rural white people who are getting these, screaming alerts that they're going to lose their local hospital and they're going to get kicked off the healthcare rolls. But a lot of them, they don't, that politics girl had a good little blurb on this the other day, and it was a lot of them don't know where they get their healthcare from. Right. So when they hear they're losing Medicaid, they don't know it's them. Just like they didn't know it was Obamacare. Like, no, I hate Obamacare. I love the AC.
Have Obamacare?
A bunch of them that they don't realize if they're on, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Central Wyoming, that's actually Medicaid.
Right.
They're like, I don't have Medicaid, I have this, because someone slaps a fancier name on top of it, right? So, their card doesn't say Medicaid card necessarily, right? So they don't walk around going, I'm a Medicaid person. Hey, yeah, here's my Medicaid, right? They hand a card in that says something else on it, And so they don't know. And they won't. So it's going to hit them not in the face, it's going to hit them in the ass. Meaning they're going to figure it out after.
It's already happened. And see, Brock, this is This is, what's killing us, right, is the ignorance of the American electorate, right? And its unwillingness to educate itself, right?
Willful ignorance.
Exactly. And, the fact that we will believe anything, the people on our side of the ledger tell us, especially on the red side. The blue side, people are more likely to challenge you. They're still playing by the rules, regulations, and norms, when the other guys are out here, bringing machetes to a butter knife fight. And it's ridiculous.
About everything. They're lying about everything. So it's all propaganda. Everything they go on TV and they're just fucking lying, like directly. Oh, no one's going to get kicked off of Medicaid.
Right.
Like, think about the whole Iran bombing thing. Just a pack of lies from the start, because now more intelligence has come out of even intercepts of the Iranians. Caught saying to each other, wow, those blasts didn't do as much damage as we thought they were going to. I mean, now we got to chase down another leak, because the leaker's the problem, not the fact. So it's just been lied about the whole time. The truce, Israel bombed Lebanon, so the truce is gone. Like, nothing about that has been truthful, right? And the same thing now here domestically. Nothing about the whole ICE raids and the deportations has been truthful, right? It was supposed to be just the criminals. It's been everybody, and now it's expanding without due process. And now the whole big ugly bill in healthcare, it's just all a pack of lies about, it's not going to be, no one's getting cut from Medicaid, but at the same time saying, it's just the lazy people who don't have jobs. Well, if you get a job, you won't have to worry about your health care. And as someone wrote on Blue Sky the other day, said, okay, show me the 80-year-old person with dementia that's in a home who's
out.
You show me who's hiring them, and we'll send them the resume, right?
Right.
Come on.
Right. And Brock, I remember a time when you lied in office or in a government position that you were prosecuted. Ollie North. I mean, the list is long and distinguished. When we get back to the G. Gordon Liddy's of the world, all these folks that participated in these harebrained schemes and then ended up prosecuted, right? There used to be a rule of law. Now we can't trust anything our government tells us because they're all full of shit. Marco Rubio, like, what happened to him? Like, maybe I didn't agree with his politics, but I thought he was like a decent dude. But he's a Trumper. And he's going along to get along with, how does he look the Hispanic community in the eye and say, hey, I'm one of you?
He doesn't.
I'm fighting for you. No, you're not. You're fighting for yourself. And again, it's the inability of the selfish and what did we call it? Toxic selfishness. Americans won't make a sacrifice for their fellow neighbor. It's ridiculous. Just to understand what you're voting for. Right? Because that's what they do now. You go and you read these initiatives on these ballots, it's so, wordsmith that they hope they confuse you. Right? And that's the goal now. It's like, okay, America's too dumb. So even if we put it on paper, nobody's gonna read it. Right? Because it's more than 140 characters. So if it's longer than a 2-page tweet, we don't have to worry about it. There's a running joke. You want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book, right? That's the barbershop way of saying shut up, right? You don't know what you're talking about. But that applies across most of America right now. Nobody's educating themselves, right? Even the people that we are calling our complacent white friends that we went to school with, our teammates that played with us, that we hung out together ad nauseum, right? They're not even educating themselves on how what's happening to the others is going to affect them. So what do? Right? What do we do? What do we wait till the calamity hits? Right? Because the shit is in the air now. We're just waiting for it to hit the fan. When it hits the fan and blows back, it's too late. We're all covered in shit.
Yeah, well, when there's like an internal army, which is in essence an armed militia that becomes like a new, that's bigger than the Coast Guard and bigger than the FBI, and it's running around at the behest of Kristi Noem / the president, right, with kind of no rules in between, masked, without rule of law, then, is this a free country anymore? Is this America as any of us knew it? And yeah, the sad reality is white America doesn't feel that pinch yet. They're just still watching it on TV. It's still people of color that are getting that hit. From middle class on up, the Medicaid cuts might not even bother them because they're like, yeah, we have jobs. So, we're employed, we're getting our health care through our employers. This is going to affect other people and other people and other people, and right, it's other people-itis, and it'll be too late, right? And that's what I worry about. So I don't know how to light the fire any broader under white America. We're happy that there have been some marches. There's going to be more on July 4th, but like, what's really, how does it happen? How do you get people out of their living rooms onto the streets in earnest?
Right.
We keep arguing for this. By the way, Em put out a anti-Trump song today, right? So you have people like him trying. Yeah. You have people like him trying to like send a harsh message, and Springsteen of the world trying. We're going to have, I don't know. Here's another video that I don't know if it was true, but I saw some photos that they've put up anti-riot fencing around the White House.
I saw that too.
Okay. So I don't know what's doctrine anymore, right? So I always have a caveat before when I see something. I don't know if it's true, but it makes sense. It would make sense to me because the Republicans, MAGA knows how bad this shit is going to get for the populace and how mad people could get. They know how they reacted when they got mad. They stormed shit. So they expect the other side to do the same. So it wouldn't surprise me that they're putting up extra fencing. But on the other hand, we haven't gone there. We haven't gone to D.C. We haven't shown the opposition force in the face of our current government. And if we're going to, in essence, unseat this current government, it's going to take mass civil movement. And that means everybody.
Rest.
So when I keep throwing out there, when are we going to get a big protest in D.C., some people may have been right on this timeline said, well, when somebody organizes it. So we're not like community organizers.
Right.
I would promise to be at the front of the line walking with you, but like we would need some organizational help. But it has to be a descend on DC moment. If you just saw the videos and the photos of Pride Day in Budapest, that was civil unrest, right? The only difference is they went home at the end of the day. They made their point that they're pro-LGBTQ and they didn't want to hear from their government, right? They're showing their government that they care about their others in their community. We have not done that here yet. We haven't gone to the seat of power and showed an oppositional power.
Right.
And I don't know if white America's afraid to do it, but at some point you can't keep doing marches in all these other cities and avoid the seat of power. It has to be a face-to-face showdown. And the difference between what we have to do here than what they did in Budapest is they went home at the end of the day. And we're going to have to commit to not going home till shit changes.
We need a sustained period of unrest that rattles, the big orange tub of goo, and that moves the Democratic faction into action, we still don't have any articles of impeachment drawn up. Like, this man cannot have achieved 40% of his personal wealth since he's been president in Trump 2.0, 6 months. And there not be any articles of impeachment in there. None of this money that he's required, this airplane that he got from Qatar, none of this is impeachable. Like, what are we waiting for? Are we waiting for him to shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue? Because somebody's going to try to, the Supreme Court's definitely going to justify it. 6-3. We know what that decision will be. It's okay to shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue because they don't agree with your policies. If you're president, he's going to get away with it again. And he keeps on getting a fucking way with it, which is what drives me crazy and makes complicit America, comfortable America even more, nonchalant about, well, I can't do anything anyway. Right. And I'm tired of hearing I'm tired of people saying to me in my conversation, well, what can we really do? What do you mean, what can we do? We can shut this shit down. We can shut this government down. They've done it in other countries, right? Why can't we do it here? We don't have 18 more months to wait for midterms. right? Because we don't even know if the midterms are going to happen. We don't even know if elections are going to happen. And we don't even know if we can trust the results. I don't think we can. I'm pretty goddamn sure he lost in 24 in November to Kamala. There's no way he won all 7 swing states without some sort of assistance from Elon Muskie and his muskrats. So, you know,
I don't know how anyone's like playing for 26. The whole talk to 26 midterms. It's like, what if they get canceled? What if they get pushed out? Like those elections in Miami. Miami decided to push out. The people in power decided to push out the election for a year. So the mayor
right,
gets to stay another year. Hey, that's
right,
pretty good. What's to stop? I keep saying, what's to stop Trump from just declaring seeing the tea leaves, reading the tea leaves, seeing he's about to lose the House and the Senate. Maybe he doesn't care because he's still president. But what if he cares? What if he cares and just decides to cancel the midterms because he does some wag the dog shit or just declares a national emergency at the border? What's to stop him? Now he's got his Gestapo of like, a bigger force than the Coast Guard and the FBI, or ICE plus FBI running around to patrol America's streets. What's to stop him from canceling the midterms? What the
right.
fuck is like Jamie Raskin gonna do? Give another speech about constitutional like fucking law?
Yeah,
No
yeah.
one's
There's
gonna
nothing to
care.
stop him.
No one's
There's
gonna
nothing
care.
to
They're
stop
gonna
him,
shut
bro.
him down. Well, who knows? They might shoot Jamie Raskin on Fifth Avenue. And what's to stop them? And
Yep.
that's what we're looking at, and why their sense of urgency isn't there now before it gets too far. That's the mistake. The sense of urgency is now. So I guess for us, it's like, what can we do about it? It's like we can organize a huge protest where everyone shows up in D.C.
Right.
Everyone fucking shows up in D.C.
Yep.
and just doesn't let it move.
Yep.
And either Trump can't get out of there, he has to helicopter his way out, something that makes him look weak.
Yep.
And let's challenge him to call in the military.
Yeah.
Let's fucking challenge him to do that. Really? You're
With you.
sending your military in? Let's see. Let's see if the military comes. They might put their guns down. They just might put their guns down.
Yep. Because I don't know if you remember, but there were a bunch of troops that walked in his parade, that did not do it the way they were supposed to in terms of the decorum as a silent protest. So, it's not exactly a done deal, that because he picks up the bat phone, they're going to come in guns blazing.
Whose families are getting deported? Our armed forces family. Whose families are going to get kicked off of health care? Armed forces. We don't have an armed forces filled with a bunch of fucking one percenters. It's
Right.
not. It's not the kids of comfortable white Americans.
No,
No.
not at all.
It's primarily,
Black
black and brown, and people in lower income stratas, because it's kind of a way out. It's a way to get benefits and earn money, and
and have a career and get yourself a career. Yeah. So, I don't know, Brock. I mean, we are getting to D-Day. I really feel like we're marching toward D-Day on a downward spiral, and I don't know how to stop it. Football season's coming soon. People are going to start paying attention to training camp and to what's happening with their favorite football team. And then they're going to be distracted again. Now is the time to strike. The Midsummer Classic with the All-Star game ain't what it used to be, right? Baseball games are too goddamn expensive and nobody watches it on TV anymore because it's so goddamn boring, right? And so now is the time to get people fired up and to get out here and march for change, right? We need to march for hope and change, right? We need a whole lot of both at this point, because this is not going to fly for another 3.5 years. We are literally going to be, I hate to think what it's going to look like in 3 years if I'm still a free man.
I mean, that's once again assuming that Trump's going to allow there to be an election, a presidential election, and
Exactly.
there's any chance that it would be free and fair. So I don't even think we can look, to what a presidential election. I mean, if he somehow stays alive, that fucking unhealthy fuck, then he's not going anywhere. He's not stepping out of power. Like, we're in this fight to the end with him. America has to man/woman up. I mean, right now we're just like, we're taking it. We're watching it. We're whining about it. We're complaining about it. We need to get out there. So Anyone listening to our show stuck with us for 30 minutes, like come on to the site, give us some ideas, especially if you're an
Yeah.
organizer. We'll be there. We'll make a lot of noise. Anyone has tricks of the trade,
Help us out.
we'd love to be a part of it. Help us out.
Yes, indeed. It's your country too. Don't ever forget it. And it says we the people, not me the Trumper, is how the preamble begins. All right, my friend. Great way to wrap it up, I guess. Stay positive. Stay loud.
I will try to stay positive. Thank you for the messaging.
All right, buddy. Always a pleasure.
All right, talk to you tomorrow.
Peace.